book nerds, welcome to my channel. So today I'm doing a long overdue video in a shocking twist of events, and these are my new releases. So these are the new releases I'm excited for, ranging from April to June. This is very overdue because as of filming it is basically the end of May, so a lot of these will already be out, which in some ways is a good thing. My next one will hopefully be more on time. But yeah, I basically talk about the new releases in chunks of 3 months, so to make sure I don't miss anything. A lot of them, the dates get shifted around, or they don't announce them until right before, or I don't find out about them. So this is by no means a comprehensive list. I have a shelf on Goodreads, which I will link down below, and I also did a video covering January to March, which I will also link down below. But yeah, these are just some books I'm really excited for. There's a wide range of genres, and I'm going to go through them chronologically. The dates may have changed. These are the publishing ones I either got off NetGalley or off Goodreads, so apologies if they have changed, but this is what I have. So the first book came out on the 2nd of April, I've already read it, I actually got an arc of it, and that is Pretending by Bourne. Apologies, white covers will be slightly hard to see given that it is a very sunny day and I film opposite a window. So this is Bourne's second ever adult contemporary book, and it is about a woman who's sick of the dating scene. She's kind of tired of putting herself out there and it never really going anywhere. She also has some sexual assault trauma from her past, which makes dating quite difficult, and she works for a sexual assault charity as well, so that's kind of the setup at the start of the book. And she decides that she's gonna pretend to be the perfect woman and date this guy and kind of write about it. And it's sort of done as a revenge thing and sort of done as just like, I guess, kind of therapy for herself. But then she meets this guy on the app and she kind of starts to really fall for him, but she's pretending to be someone else. It's very brilliantly done. It's a lot better than the plot makes it sound. I actually gave this book 4.5 stars and I really loved it. Very heavy trigger warnings, so look out for those. But this book is amazing and you should definitely check it out if you like the kind of brutal contemporaries that rip you apart and then stitch you back together. Next up we have the horror, which came out on the 7th of April, and this is The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. By Grady Hendrix. So Grady Hendrix wrote My Best Friend's Exorcism, which was set in the 80s, and this is about a group of adults, and it's set in the 90s, and basically these women in this neighbourhood have book club, and then one day a vampire moves into their neighbourhood and they have to kind of decide how to fight him / get rid of the vampire. I was super intrigued by this book because My Best Friend's Exorcism focuses on teenage friendship, and Grady Hendrix specifically said that this was kind of an evolution of that. It's not related to that book apart from thematically, but he said that he really wanted to explore adult friendship and how that differs, and I think I didn't love My Best Friend's Exorcism, but I really liked some of the things it had to say, and I think this premise just sounds like so much fun, so I'm very excited to see what happens with it. The next book also came out on the 7th of April, and it is Chosen Ones by Veronica Roth. So I actually got approved of an arc of this the other day, but I've not read it yet because it was only the other day. This is her first adult book, I believe. I've not read any of her work, but I have owned it, and it is essentially the story of a group of teenagers who saved the world, and then it's set 10 years later after they've done that, and one of them dies again, and it's kind of suggesting that the evil force they defeated might be back. And I think it's going to deal with themes of what it would be like if you did save the world as a teenager and then you had to grow up in that world. And I'm hoping that's what it deals with, because I think that sounds super interesting and really cool. Maybe not the most unique of premises, but I've not seen enough of that done yet, and I'm hoping that this will be really good. The next book came out on the 16th of April, and it's another horror kind of speculative fiction type book, and it is Little Lies by Samantha Schweblin. It's actually really hard for me to find out what the plot of this book is, but I believe that there are these kind of gadget toy creature things that start like everyone owns them. It's a new piece of technology, and basically you can inhabit the body of one of these creatures, but you don't get any choice as to where you wake up, and like you can view the world through the eyes of this toy. I think that's the premise. That's kind of all I could find about it. I think it sounds really cool, really creepy. Not read anything by this author yet, but I own her book, Mouthful of Birds, and I really want to get around to reading it. I know she writes kind of like creepy, sort of maybe feministy things, but mostly just like intense speculative fiction bordering on horror. So I think it sounds super interesting, and it's such a cool premise again, like kind of Black Mirror-esque almost. The next book came out on the 23rd of April, and it's not normally my type of book, but it's Come Again by Robert Webb. This is a contemporary about a woman whose husband dies, and she then wakes up at the age of 18 again, and I believe they met at university, and she kind of has the opportunity to live through her life and potentially save his life. I think he dies from illness rather than an accident. My interest got grabbed by this book because I actually, before the world went to shit, I had tickets to go listen to a talk by Robert Webb at my university about this book. I don't know if it's set at York University, but I think it's heavily based around there. I believe he might have attended it. So it kind of grabbed my interest because of that, as well as the whole reliving your life again. I really like that kind of story. So it might not be my cup of tea, depending on how heavily it leans on the illness aspect, but there's certainly enough here to grab my attention. The next book came out on the 28th of April, and it is Clickbait by Valett. This is a young adult, I guess contemporary, maybe with some, I think it's just like a contemporary book. This is about a girl who, basically, she decides at school she's going to infiltrate the popular kids. I can't remember why. I believe there's probably some kind of reason. So she pretends to be a popular kid. She kind of redesigns her entire life and adopts a new identity. I love good young adult contemporaries with this kind of over-the-top zany premise. There's a book called How to Be Popular by Meg Cabot, which I really, really liked. And this sounds similar, but more updated and maybe less zany, maybe a bit darker. I can't really tell based off the cover, but it sounds awesome anyway. And my final April book doesn't have a date attached to it. I just remember that it came out in April and I couldn't find one on Goodreads. But it is The Odds by Jeff Strand. This is a horror book, and it is about a man who basically he's a gambler, and he gets the opportunity. There's like a 99% chance that he wins a bunch of money and a 1% chance that his arm will be shattered. And he kind of plays this game. I believe that he kind of wins that one because it's like the first step. But then he keeps on, he gets stuck in the cycle of these dark gambling games. I love Jeff Strand's horror writing. I think he wrote The Haunted Forest Tour, something like that. And it was so entertainingly written, had really great characterization and all that kind of stuff. And I love the basic premise of people playing dark games and horror games and kind of that sort of thing. So I don't think it's on Kindle Unlimited yet, but it might be actually. It was pretty cheap when it was released. I'm gonna pick it up as soon as I'm in more of a horror mood because it sounds really good. So getting on to May books, we have on the 5th of May, the one that came out was If It Bleeds by Stephen King. This is a set of 4 novellas. I was super excited for this, and I still am because it's a new Stephen King book, but I think at least one, if not all of the novellas are based around The Outsider and the kind of Bill Hodges, Mr. Mercedes type trilogy. I've not read any of these books yet, so I don't think I can actually read this book yet. If anyone knows in more detail, do let me know, because I would love to read. I really like Stephen King's novellas and short stories. I think they're really strong, but also I don't want any spoilers for those books, so maybe either way it's a new Stephen King book, which is always pretty cool. The next is a book I'm sure you've heard of. It also comes out on May the 5th. Oh, it came out on May the 5th. And it is The Guest List by Lucy Foley. I've still not read anything by Lucy Foley. She did The Hunting Party, which was really well received. Maybe another book as well, which I own, but I've not read yet. But this is a thriller. and it's a really old school murder mystery type thriller in premise, which I love. It's about a bunch of guests going to an island for a wedding. There's a massive storm, they get trapped on the island, and then there's murder, maybe more than one murder. That is like peak Agatha Christie-esque murder mystery style, and I'm loving it, so I do really want to get around to reading this. I'll maybe try to read The Hunting Party first because it's been on my TBR longer, but it sounds awesome. Cannot wait. The next book also came out on May the 5th. It's actually a non-fiction book, and that is Death by Shakespeare by Catherine Harkup. This sounds really fun. It talks about all the kind of deaths and the kind of scientific validity of the deaths in Shakespeare and whether they'd really work the way they did in the plays. Kind of a random topic, but I think it sounds really interesting. And the Hungry Bookworm did a really good review of this book, so I'll link that down below because I thought it was interesting. But yeah, I just think it sounds cool, and I don't include enough non-fiction on these lists. The next book came out on May the 7th. I think it sounds really interesting and it could go either way for me, and it is Conception by, I think it's Özgür Uyanık, but I could be wrong, I could be pronouncing that completely wrong. This is like a literary fiction book about a sociopath who is an artist, and he starts self-mutilating to kind of make a statement about art. That's all I know. The reason I said this could go either way is because that premise sounds fantastic. It sounds really dark and the kind of literary fiction I actually enjoy, but sometimes literary fiction doesn't gel well with me. It might be a bit too pretentious, particularly if it's exploring the art world for my tastes, but I think it sounds really cool, and that cover definitely caught my eye, so I will give this a try and see where I fall on the scale. The next book came out on May 14th, and it is a thriller, The House Share by Kate Helm. This is about a kind of urban experiment where a group of people go to live in this massive house slash set of apartments. It says it's like got co-community living, so maybe they have like communal kitchens or whatever. But in this house share, there starts to be some kind of dark pranks going on, and there's ambiguity about whether you can trust the people they're living with and who's really behind all the experiment. And it says on the front, 7 housemates, 7 lies. Would you join the house share? This could be garbage, but I think it sounds great from the premise, and I do love thrillers based around kind of closed quarters and living environments and that kind of thing. The next book came out on the 22nd of May, and it is I Made a Mistake by Jane Corry. This is basically just a thriller about a woman who cheats on her husband, as far as I can tell, which might not sound particularly unique or exciting, but I love Jane Corry's writing. I think she's a fantastic thriller author, and I really like how she does characterization, and she really takes kind of simple issues. I read Blood Sisters by her, which was about 2 people separated at birth, and it's like a super simple premise, but she executes it so well, and it was really really greatly paced and that kind of thing. So it might not sound like the most interesting premise in the world, but her writing is going to make me want to pick this up. The final May book came out on the 24th of May, and it is A Good Girl by Miranda Smyth. This is another thriller. This is about a woman whose brother tried to kill her when she was 13. And then she's now an adult and she's a teacher, and she gets a student in her class who she is convinced is evil. And then something happens to one of the other students, and she's convinced that this evil student is behind it, and she's determined to prove that this student isn't as innocent as she seems. Anyone who knows my channel knows that I love thrillers based around like female dynamics, and I think the teacher-student dynamic under this lens is really interesting. I love the idea of someone who knows a child is evil, and I also like the idea that it's influenced by her past, and I'm hoping this lives up to how cool that sounds. Now we get onto the June books. So the first one I want to talk about comes out on the 2nd of June, and it is Little Creeping Things by Chelsea Ichazo? Yeah, I think it's Ichazo. This is, I guess, a young adult thriller is how you'd classify it. It's about a girl who was bullied, and she comes up with like a murder plan for her bully, and then her bully actually gets murdered, and gets murdered in the way that is similar to the murder plan, so she then has to kind of prove her own innocence. There's a lot of books with this premise. This could be really mediocre, but I love the cover. I think it's really eye-catching, and again, it's just something about kind of dark relationships that I really like reading about, and I'm hoping this explores that premise well. The next book also comes out on June the 2nd, and it is You Should See Me in a Crown by Leah Johnson. This is a young adult contemporary. It's about a girl who has her scholarship taken away, and then she realises that if she becomes homecoming queen, apparently she also gets a scholarship. So she's suddenly desperate to become homecoming queen. The main character is bisexual as well, and I believe she might be or might have a crush on the other person running for homecoming queen. Sounds perfect for Pride Month, super gay, hopefully super cute, and it's got some great presentation in it as well. The main character's not white, I don't know the exact representation, I can't remember, but it sounds awesome and great. The next book is also super gay, and it comes out on the 9th of June. It is The Falling in Love Montage by Ciara Smyth. This is about two girls who don't really want to fall in love. I can't remember the reasons, like the main character's been like always cynical about love. I think they're going to be split up at the end of summer or some kind of time period, so they decide to do like a falling in love montage. So they decide to do like all the cute things that you do in a falling in love montage, but then they didn't predict that they'd actually fall in love at the end of it. It's a gay contemporary with two lesbian characters doing cute things together, so I quite want to read this, yeah. The next book also comes out on the 9th of June, and this is The Girls' Weekend by Jody Gehrman. I believe we've got an arc of this. This is about, it's a thriller about a girls' weekend. So a couple of women go on a weekend together on holiday, and then they kind of have some tensions and some fights, and then they all wake up the next day and one of them is missing. There's blood on the stairs, the house has been it's in disarray, and they were all drugged, so none of them can remember what happened. This is one of my favourite premises for a thriller. I've got a couple of books on my TBR with similar premises, and eventually I will find one that's done well, and hopefully it'll be this one. The next book comes out on the 16th of June, and it is I'll Be the One by Lyla Lee. This is a fantastically beautiful, gorgeous, sunny cover. I love it. This is about a girl who's plus-sized. She may also be queer, I can't quite remember. And she basically wants to become a K-pop star, and she's plus size, she has difficulties she has to face with that, and it's young adult contemporary. It looks like it's going to be a really fun, really sunny read, hopefully uplifting, maybe a little bit queer, and yeah, I got really interested in books about K-pop. I feel like there's a couple coming out, and yeah, I'm interested to see what they're like. The next book comes out on the 23rd of June, and it is Seasons of the Storm by Elle Cosimano. This is a fantasy book, which isn't usually my jam, but this one sounds quite interesting. It's about, there are magical personifications of the seasons, and their seasons have to murder the previous season in order to exist. So like winter has to kill autumn, spring has to kill winter, etc. And then a winter and a spring fall in love, and that's kind of the basic premise of the book. Yeah, I think that sounds like such an interesting idea, and it's got such a gorgeous cover. I'm hoping it's executed well. Fantasy romances can be a bit sometimes, but it's enough to grab my interest, and hopefully it'll live up to my expectations. The next book comes out on June the 23rd, and it's got a lot going on that I'm very excited for, and it is Everyone Knows How Much I Love You by Kyle McCarthy. So this is a book entirely about an intense female friendship. It's like a thriller, dark, contemporary-esque story, and it's about Lacey and Rose. And when they were in high school together, Rose betrayed Lacey. It's years later, and they are adults again, and their paths cross, and they move in together. They kind of start up their uneasy, unhealthy friendship again. But Rose is writing a book about the time she betrayed Lacey, so she's writing that in secret, and then she also starts to feel an attraction towards Lacey's boyfriend, and it just sounds like it's going to have a lot of intense dynamics going on, a lot of betrayals and friendship, all the kind of stuff I love in my thrillers. So I really, really hope this is executed properly, because that premise sounds awesome. The next book also comes out on the 23rd of June, and it is another thriller, A Woman Elaine by Laurin. This is about a woman who moves into a really intense security system house, and then the security system reveals to her that someone else lived there beforehand, and this person may have met a mysterious dark fate. So she starts investigating what happened to the prior occupant, and what's got to do with her now, and whether she's in danger. Again, kind of closed environment thriller, kind of psychological, a lot of dark aspects to it, and I think this could be really, really interesting. The next book comes out on June 30th, and it is I Killed Zoe Spanis by Kit Frick. First of all, again, this is a beautiful cover. I found it really eye-catching. I think it's really unique. And if you ever play the board game Codenames, it reminds me of that, which is a weird thing to say, but yeah. This is a young adult thriller about a girl moves to a town, and I think there is a girl who is missing called Zoe. So Anna moves to a town and there's a girl called Zoe who's missing, and Anna resembles Zoe, and she's kind of starts to become obsessed with her, and she thinks that they're connected, and she thinks she knows what happened to her. And then 2 months later, Zoe's body is found and Anna is accused of her murder. And then there's another character who's running a kind of podcast, who's trying to find out what really happened to it. Podcast books have gone through the roof since the popularity of Sadie, and I don't care because I think I love all of them. So yeah, I really trust Kit Frick's writing. A lot of young adult thrillers don't live up to their promise, but I've read some stuff from her before and I've really enjoyed all of it. And yeah, this could be really cool if it's executed properly, and I really hope it is. And the final book I'm going to talk about also comes out on June 30th, and it is Home Before Dark by Riley Sager. I am a huge fan of Riley Sager. I still haven't read Lock Every Door, which I need to get around to, but this sounds like more of a horror than a thriller book, which makes me so excited. This is about a woman whose father wrote a famous non-fiction book about a haunted house, and she inherits the house after he dies. She doesn't believe in ghosts, but she goes there and lives there for a while and starts to experience ghostly things. There's also some tensions with the nearby town because I think her father's book ruined the tourism of the town. And yeah, I'm really excited to see Riley Sager go into actual horror. There's hints of that with Final Girls, and also this cover is really cool. It's like green is an unusual book cover colour, like this kind of green, and it's so eerie and it looks really cool. So yeah, so those are all the books I'm excited for, or a decent chunk of the books I'm excited for that are released between April and June. The next lot will be July to September. I'll try to get up near the start of July, which is not that far away, which is scary. Let me know what books you're most excited for. If you think any of these sound cool, let me know. I'd love to maybe buddy read some of the ones I've got arcs for that I've not read yet, or just more buddy reading in general is always good. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give me a thumbs up, it helps me out massively, and I hope to see you next time.